Gintare Geleziunaite has delivered a number of change management programs throughout the public sector and is now Head of Strategy at the Department of International Trade. Listen in to some excellent practical advice for delivering successful change initiatives, including the value of engaging change evangelists. Gintare shares her thoughts on getting senior leadership teams to engage properly with the change program. But probably the single most important message she has is that if you want others to change, to always be your authentic self. Welcome to this episode of Implementing Best Practice in Business. We're here to help you and your organisation understand and implement global best practice to help you face the business challenges of today. Join me, Richard Farrow, CEO of APMG International, in talking to leaders and practitioners who have applied these frameworks and practices to boost their productivity. They're here, willing to share their knowledge and experience to help you learn from them so you can do the same to make you more competitive in today's market. My guest today is Gintare. She has held several project and change management roles in the public sector and has been involved in major transformation initiatives to build internal change management capability. Currently, she is the co-lead of the London chapter of the Change Management Institute and chairs a cross-government change management group, both of which allow her to raise wider awareness of the benefits of change management and to help leaders and organisations see how crucial it is to ensure people are on board with any change initiative. She's also interested in agile culture and to see how that can help organisations, and in particular how small changes result in huge impact on organisations or on organisational cultures over time. Welcome, Gintare.
Thanks so much for having me, Richard.
So, you've held some pretty senior change management roles in the public sector. You've worked for a number of public sector organisations. How easy is it to create the business case for change management and to build that awareness in large organisations?
Well, not easy at all isn't my honest answer, and I'm really sorry if you were, and the listeners, of course, were expecting a different answer. I guess that's one of the greatest complexities when working with really large organizations, which public sector organizations tend to be. It's around achieving that consistency of anything, if you like. So, you mentioned a few of the roles that I held over sort of the past few years. One was working for an organization that's 250,000 people strong. The other, 100 times smaller, but operates across 108 countries worldwide. And my task at hand was very much to create that change management capability from scratch. Of course, starting with that change management awareness and case for change management. And I must say that whilst those organizations were really different, the challenges that I ran into were actually quite similar. And I do actually have a few tips that I could share if you think that would be of interest.
I think any tips that you can share to help people avoid the same problems and maybe get there faster would be brilliant. So please share.
Yeah, okay, sure, great. So first of all, if you're there to raise a change management awareness, which generally should be the first step in building change management capability, especially if you're operating in low maturity environment, then you must know that you are now in sales job. So you have got to treat it that way. So remember to be enthusiastic, in your 10th session just as much as you were in your first one. So remember to keep that level of energy and enthusiasm, because really you only have a couple of minutes to engage your audience and to get them interested in change management and the benefits it could deliver for them. Just like with any sales assignment, know your audience. So research them, understand them. Why should they care? Why should they listen to you? What benefits change management will actually bring about for them? And then when you do speak of benefits, I would very much recommend concentrating on tangible benefits, because as change practitioners, we're often accused of doing the fluffy stuff, which I disagree with. So as much as you can remove that kind of ambiguity or fluffiness from your pitch, do it. So again, if you're able to translate your benefits into tangible terms, absolutely do so. And if you're speaking with senior colleagues, then try and translate those into financial terms, because I tend to see that really, really works with senior colleagues. I think last tip that I would provide is that remember to also create an urgency. So why should they care about change management right now? And try and kind of link that to organizations' circumstance, specific circumstance. So maybe there's a really large portfolio of change. Maybe people's satisfaction with how change is managed is low. So build on those stats that you have available to you to help urgency for change management sort of right now. Actually, I just thought of another tip to share, which is that remember to use all of the channels that are available to you. Some of those channels will not be immediately obvious. So to give you an example, when I was at the Ministry of Defense, we had to raise awareness of change management to our workforce of 250,000. And I was part of a team of 3. So there's absolutely no chance we could directly engage that many people, even if, we did not sleep and just delivered a presentation after presentation with lots of enthusiasm. So instead, what we decided to do is we decided to build this community of practice, like a really engaged community of change agents, and we brought them together. We gave them lots of interesting content, to get them really engaged, and then we provided them with the sales materials. And we built that group from 30 to 500 individuals in the matter of 6 months. And at the end of those 6 months, we moved from having 3 voices in the organization to having 503 voices. And not just any voices. These are the voices that already have rapport in their immediate environment. So that really, really did work. So a channel that wasn't necessarily immediately available or obvious really worked in that particular circumstance. So I would definitely encourage everyone to just consider, what non-obvious channels are available to spread your message.
I mean, that's fascinating. You did actually mention about the senior leadership team. So how easy is it to get the senior leadership team to really buy into a change initiative, rather than sort of say, well, we support it, but because change starts the level below us, we don't have to change. So can you actually get the senior leadership team engaged? And are they happy to change alongside the rest of the organization?
I guess it's always a mixed bag, right? There are those that are just change-prone individuals, and if they'll just happily jump onto any initiative that promises benefits. Others need a bit more convincing. So the largest middle group, and I think that's when it's really important to have your benefits quite tightly defined and aimed at that particular individual's group. Because if you're able to demonstrate how change management will make their life easier, they will get on board. Whether it's change capability building exercise or a change program, they will get on board and support you and your undertaking. But then, of course, there's this last group, which are people who tend to not tolerate change as well. But I guess in those instances, it's all about getting people to understand the case for change. And you might actually have to define the case for change for that particular individual if you really, really need them on board. So absolutely. I mean, if you've got a really important senior stakeholder who's resisting, but they're crucial to your change initiative, don't just leave them to one side and hope they will not, cause delays or challenges for you in the future. I think you've got to deal with it there and then. And the best way to deal with it is to understand the person, to build a personal relationship with them, and then understand what drives them. So what benefits do they want to achieve, or better, or in some instances, why are they fearing this change? What are they fearing? And then giving them comfort that actually there's nothing to be feared and that the initiative is well thought through.
Talking about scared about the change initiative, you've recently joined a government department.
Yep.
Where you are now head of change strategy.
Yep.
So congratulations on the appointment.
Thank you very much.
But what will success look like to you, say, in 2025? If you roll forward, say, 3 years.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there 3 years' time, What would you think would be the difference between the organisation then and the organisation now?
Very good question, and I better be careful here and not overpromise just in case my boss is listening.
I'm sure you've already overpromised, but go ahead.
As long as I over-deliver as well, then that should be fine.
That's always the case.
So I guess, well, let me try and paint you a picture of 2025. So I would expect to see in our department that every change initiative has a team of trained and confident change managers working basically on those projects, which is not the case at the moment because we're only just building that change management capabilities. So I'd say we're in a relatively low maturity environment. And of course, if we do have these change managers on board every program, we'll see really speedy and smooth adoption of every solution we try to implement, and we will be able to achieve a really high user satisfaction with how change is being managed. I want to say 100%, but I don't think that is realistic because it doesn't matter how well you plan. There are always things that sort of creep up that are not necessarily in your control, COVID being one very recent and very painful example. So I guess for me that sweet spot is at 75%. And in fact, this is how we manage our performance. We ask our workforce every year how well do they think change is managed in the department. And so for me, 75% is where I'd like it to see it in 2025. I guess the other way I'd measure success is sort of by observing a shift in culture as well. So in 2025, DIT is definitely a department where we experiment more, because I think as a result of being subjected to like really good change management, you kind of transform as an individual from change fearing to change seeking, because you know that every time change initiative comes around, you will have a really good experience and you'll be put at the center of everything that's happening, and you've got that comfort and you actually seek change because you know that your life will be better after that initiative is implemented. So yes, that's my vision for 2025.
Excellent. Going back to, you mentioned earlier that you were part of a change management team within the Ministry of Defence.
Yeah.
Were there any special challenges sort of managing teams comprising civilians and military personnel? Do some of them take to change better than others? Is there any, without stereotyping people, is there anything that you could point to and say one group is easier than another, or are we all people and we all resist change regardless of where we come from?
No, this is such a good question. And in fact, working in that kind of mixed environment is probably one of the most interesting experiences of my career to date. And I have huge amount of respect for all of my colleagues, but my military colleagues in particular. And of course, goes without saying, there are significant organizational and cultural differences between military and civilian organizations for good reason. But I guess the way that I like to explain it is that as civilians, we only have a single kind of expectation placed on us on how we should work, right? Military colleagues do not have that same thing. They have actually multiple expectations placed on them. So when they're in the field, they're expected to be, to follow the orders rigidly. Then as soon as they're not in the field, they're expected to almost like switch to a completely different way of working and switch into these like really agile and modern and lean organizations where they experiment a lot and, the structures are flat. But of course, that's not how it works in practice. So I feel like we place lots of expectations on our military colleagues, but we don't necessarily give them the right opportunities to learn how to make that switch quite quickly, leaving alone the fact that it is actually really difficult to switch at that pace for anyone, whether it's military or civilian colleague. So whilst, of course, that kind of direct order culture does exist in military, in order to allow people to kind of experiment more and to remove that when the colleagues are not in the field, so when it is appropriate, the empowerment agenda is really, really high on the department's kind of culture evolution agenda. And there are already so many great leaders that will go above and beyond to empower their teams and and they have no problem letting go of that power or perceived power in some instances. And of course, there are those that are, not as keen to change, and they're more set in their ways and have trouble letting go of that power. Although it is in some instances perceived that doesn't really matter, I guess. So my experience, of course, I've met such stakeholders, but each time I was able to really quickly bring them round to the kind of empowerment agenda and to get them to kind of empower their teams a bit more by explaining the case for change. And in this instance, the case for new ways of working across the military is so that we are able to remain a leading military power in today's fast-changing world. So if we want to remain leaders, we've got to develop solutions faster, we've got to experiment more, and I guess you can only do that if you feel empowered, because if you are working in a culture where you fear change, you fear to propose new things because they might fail, then of course you will not kind of realize that kind of pace of delivery which is needed. And I guess when I explain that way, you could just see the clocks turning and people connecting the dots, and it works for me every time. And then to kind of answer your other question, which is like, how do you then bring those different cultures to work successfully together? I have got to be honest, it can be quite intimidating to walk into that kind of military civilian environment for the first time, because the mood tends to be quite serious. And I was actually kind of feeling maybe my authentic working style won't work there. So I was really tempted to just put my authenticity to one side and say, oh, I just better be just like everyone else and, try and work outside of my comfort zone, if that makes sense. And so I was so fortunate actually to the very last minute to pull myself together and say, no, I'm going to stay true to my authentic working style. I think that did allow me to create really kind of safe and fun environment for those mixed military and civilian teams, which of course then resulted in people being able to bring out their experiences, their personalities and their ideas, which always results in better outcomes. So I guess just a reminder to self and to everyone who's listening that stay true to your authentic working style wherever you go.
It always works, doesn't it? Because you're comfortable with it and you know what it means. Whereas if you try and put on a persona, particularly when you're new to something, it doesn't last very long and you do lose that credibility. But you said you had you built a community of change agents back in the MOD. I think you said it was about 500 people.
Yeah.
Have they remained there? Do they now have a thriving change community that works together, shares ideas? Is that part of your legacy when you moved on?
Well, I surely would like to hope so. It is, one of my greatest achievements, I'd say, and something I'm incredibly proud of. And so I think by the time I was leaving the department, the community was something like 700 people. And then I'm still in touch with some of my colleagues, and I think it is now around 1,000 people. And it's still kind of growing strong, sharing, bringing around speakers, and yes, I think it certainly is still out there. And I think the other reason why that community is so dear to my heart, and I guess my kind of other is the fact that it inspired the cross-government change management working group, which I founded a couple of years ago and sort of continue to chair, because seeing just how much of an impact the MOD's community of practice actually made to the organization, and how it made it possible for us to, end the silo working and to share the various outputs and to just work together. It's really kind of inspired me to then get something started at that kind of cross-government level, because just, connecting with colleagues, I could see just how much duplication is out there and how much unnecessary rework we're all doing. So yes, that defense community of practice is very near and dear to my heart.
But does it really travel? I mean, is it true that you can actually share tools, techniques and approaches between government departments with pretty different underlying technologies they may be working for? Yeah, okay, they're all focused on providing best value to the citizen. But there's a lot of difference depending upon what department you're in. So is it easy to share those lessons across?
It is not easy. There should be more standardization, that's for sure. And we don't have an ideal solution to share the tools and the documents and to collaborate, but we do the best with what we've got. And I must say that COVID actually did result in very fast kind of change in how we are able to collaborate outside of our immediate department. So that's one of kind of one of the benefits that this situation, very negative situation, actually had to how we're working. And to be absolutely honest, I use now a lot of the tools that I have borrowed from my colleagues across the civil service. So when I need something new in my work or in my department, I don't sit down and create it and I don't commission it. What I do is I first check out what we currently have. In other departments, we've got a knowledge hub presence where we are sharing everything. And then I'll reach out if I can't find anything, I'll reach out to the network and say, can you help me with this? Have you done this before? And with 22 government departments now represented, I tend to find lots and lots of answers and people willing to lend me a hand, which is really positive. And I guess I think also our kind of collaboration and rallying behind the need for a more standardized change management kind of standards across governments, also nudging our colleagues at the center to also provide us some standards. So there is now actually work underway to standardize how change management is done across civil service. So I wouldn't attribute it completely to the group, but I definitely think that us coming together has served as this driving force to standardize change management across civil service a bit more.
So, I mean, that's fascinating. So this collaborative approach that you have, involving colleagues from across different government departments to sort of share things.
Yep.
So, if you were asked by a new entrant, a new person just joined government, their first career, and they said to you, what do you think I should focus on? What do you think I should learn? What are the three things that you would tell them? What are the three things that you would have liked to have known when you started your career in change management that you now know?
Sure. Well, of course, first and foremost, just drawing on my own experience, I'd recommend that they do an APMG change management course. That's for sure. That's how I got started in my with my career, and coming from project management background. I was, I had some really interesting experiences of managing projects, but one thing just kept really bothering me, which is that we're treating people as a bit of an afterthought in projects. And I thought there has to be a better way to do this. And indeed there was. It was called change management. And then I found an APMG change management foundation, did the course, and I thought, yes, there is an approach of managing people through projects and change better. And so that definitely worked for me. And, I can only share what worked for me. But in terms of tips, three things. So first of all, remember that every meaningful conversation, relationship, personal or professional, starts with listening. So listen first, understand the other person, and then speak. When you speak, always approach it from the perspective of how am I adding value to the other person. I think that sort of mindset you'll find really opens the mind's hearts and doors. At least it worked for me. Second tip would be that remember that peer-to-peer power is a real thing and it is incredibly powerful. So I truly believe that my network can help me achieve anything I want. It's just a matter of explaining to my network or my organization or my colleagues why what I'm doing is important to me, why they're a crucial part or a crucial enabler of my vision. And also, don't forget to be okay with asking for help. You'll find are really inclined to help you. It's just important to not be afraid to ask. And lastly, I already touched on this a little bit, but just remember to be authentic, because actually, the Google study recently found that authentic teams do better than those that are not authentic. So by being authentic, you are not just helping yourself and your team, you're helping your organization. So authenticity is truly a strength. So remember to be authentic yourself and then try and encourage it wherever you go.
Gintare, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom, your thoughts, your experiences. It was great talking to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so very much for having me, Richard. It was a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you for listening. We're always keen to hear your feedback and suggestions for future episodes. You can find all the information in the show notes below. Please visit apmg-international.com to find out more about our accredited training and the certifications that support them that are related to the topics discussed in this series. I hope you've enjoyed today, and I look forward to you joining future episodes while we continue our exploration into best practice and the benefits it brings to global business. Thank you.